Hey guys, Zack here, and this is why you should watch In Space with Markiplier. Okay, so it's been a while since I did these you should watch videos, so yeah, I haven't done one of these in a very, very long time, but I figured I would just do one of these again because, well, you guys have heard of Markiplier. I don't need to tell you who he is. If you've been on the internet long enough, if you've been on YouTube long enough, you probably have heard of him. But but what you might not know about him, other than the fact that he's a professional screamer who screams at the horror games, is that he actually made a directorial debut a while back, and has been making his own stuff for a while now. He's actually been making his own short films, which is kind of fun, and In Space with Markiplier is actually the most recent one of these. Only the first part is out right now. The second part is eventually going to come out later this May. But I'm not going to do one for a part two, so I figured I might as well just cover my bases now. But yeah, I'm not going to do one for part two for scheduling reasons, and also because I think it's just going to be a continuation of what I'm already talking about, and I don't think that's going to be very interesting to talk about for a video. But the way In Space with Markiplier is, obviously, first and foremost, Mark loves space, so of course this is the very first thing. This is probably one of the best things he's ever made for him. So yeah, he just gets to create his own space story, and you could just tell he was having a lot of fun with it. You can tell he was just having a lot of fun creating his own space story, creating his own aliens, and creating a bunch of other things because Mark loves space. It's one of his favorite places. But yeah, the story is kind of about how you're about the upcoming captain who is shot in first person perspective. So in that case it would be you. But in any case it stars an up and coming captain of the Invincible 2, which Mark his character in the story actually admits that he made himself, and is actually handing it over because he's not qualified to actually captain a giant spacefaring vessel full of colonists. But in any case, the story goes is that after giving the tour where he shows you the warp core, which he openly admits he doesn't know what it is or what it does, and in several of the endings he even admits that he just kind of found it, but also was just the one who plugged it in. But he admits that he doesn't understand what it does, but he plans to use it to navigate the stars, and also points out that he built a giant reactor to power said warp gates. So he made a wormhole. So he just has a wormhole generator on his ship that he uses to power it, and also has all the other necessary things that you need to transport a ship full of colonists. You have cryo sleep, so that the colonists will wake up at any point during their journey, which is run by Cersei, who doesn't like Mark, admittedly, and for good reason, because Mark is an idiot, and she knows it. She's very much open about the fact that Mark's an idiot, and has done some very strange things with the ship as head engineer. Case in point, one of the first things that happens that winds up biting him in the ass is that he built a regular window on a spaceship, which winds up breaking. He winds up going out of it immediately. But he also introduced the asteroid defense system, which is run by Gunner, and also Bob plays Bert, who is the one in charge of the reactor, and those are our three main crew members. There's a couple of cameos from a couple of other different YouTubers. MatPat is there. He plays one of the crew members, and he only has one line, but he's there as a member of the crew. And also Chica is also there as a member of the crew, which is kind of funny and cute. But yeah, in any case, the Invincible 2, also I should mention, is there was an Invincible 1 in the canon of In Space with Markiplier. In the canon of In Space, it was indeed there was indeed a previous ship called the Invincible 1, but it's not stated what happened to it, but it's implied that the warp core kind of caused the ship to implode and disappear, and nobody knows what happened to it. So, and Mark just hopes that the Invincible 2 will finally live up to its name. And just in case it can't, he also rigs several explosives leading to the core to the warp core, which is supposed to blow off the ship and just kind of. It's just supposed to jettison the warp core off the rest of the ship so that they can get away from the wormhole safely. Which, in case something bad goes wrong, which of course it inevitably does because that's the plot. But yeah, in case while in cryo sleep, the captain's cryo sleep kind of doesn't work because it has the software update in the middle of the cryo sleep. It just decides the software update, so the captain ultimately doesn't go to sleep, and he winds up being awake when all sorts of manners of things are going wrong. Notably, all of the systems that they need to actually keep the ship running are failing all at once. And of course, you can actually the first part of the series is just of you and possibly Mark if you wind up resetting. In view and possibly Mark going to go fix everything, it doesn't really matter how you actually wind up fixing everything, since the story ultimately leads to one linear conclusion anyway, where the actual plot of In Space with Markiplier begins. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't go for them, because a lot of the decisions and endings are just really, really funny. There's this one where this old lady with cookies, where if you have Mark with you and decide to ask the crew to help, the system winds up, the warp hole kind of causes reality to glitch, and she winds up replacing the several crew members that are supposed to help. So Gunnar, Cersei, and Bert, they don't wind up actually helping. She just kind of shows up in their place and is killed immediately because she's unqualified to actually help. And it's very funny, but also gets a little bit more nonsensical and dreary when because it's kind of implied that she's like this larger person in the narrative of the whole thing, and also throughout the series there's both references to games that Mark has played as well as things that he's made before. For example, once you've actually fixed everything, you wind up getting one of your fake endings and wind up getting warped back to the start. Mark winds up crying out of his cryopod and starts flashing through all of his different Mark Sonas that he has. After jumping through the warp hole with Mark after a strange woman who is implied to be one of the crew members, she winds up showing up and tries to shoot you, which only causes the reactor to actually explode and send Mark and the captain going into the wormhole, which I should mention is a really impressive visual, by the way. It's a really very impressive visual. The special effects team did a really good job on that because it's a YouTube original, and they've pulled out all the stops to actually make it the best YouTube original they can, and yeah, YouTube does make its own content, and Mark just uploads it as a regular video because that's how the Date with Markiplier series works. He just uploads them as a choose your own adventure, and he uses the suggested videos to kind of set a choose your own adventure style thing, which is very cool and a very interesting use of the recommended videos thing on that YouTube has. But in any case, after eventually finding the warp core, that's where your decisions actually start mattering. You can start looking for different endings, because it's at this point where the warp core actually entrusts you as kind of a suitable host to fix in his own words, please fix Paradox. And then you have to go fix all the paradoxes that are going on. And of course you don't because obviously this is only the first half. Again, May 2nd is when the second half of In Space with Markiplier comes out. But yeah, you don't actually wind up fixing any of the paradoxes. But there are a lot of really funny routes and decisions. There's, for example, one of my personal favorite routes through the game is where at one point you can take Bert's advice to instead of calling for help and getting to the United Security Association, or USA, which is a very funny acronym if you get it. But actually, I'm pretty sure everybody gets it. But it's like you can, instead of actually calling for help and getting more advice, and also I should mention, if you do call for advice, you wind up meeting an alien named Tuck, who is apparently weighed in a mask with a synthesizer, and it's really, really funny. But yeah, it's apparently just Wade in a giant, rather intimidating, I should mention, very giant costume. It's very funny. But in case, the change that I was going on is that if you actually take Bert's advice and back up into the wormhole, much to Cersei's chagrin, you actually the timeline for the next several choices winds up turning into this 1950s noir telenovela crime film, and it is just really funny. It's just this really hilarious thing where you're going through this telenovela. Everybody has their own internal monologue, and it's really funny where they just state their thoughts, not really out loud, except for the one instance where Merc kind of questions your decisions and says so out loud, thinking he's saying it internally as a monologue. But it's just really funny. And of course it's really funny. And of course there are multiple endings that you can get. There's the one that I think is the main one that's supposed to lead you to everything is that eventually, and this is a slight spoiler, but this is a very major spoiler of one of several, but there's this one ending where I'm not going to tell you how to find it, but I'm not going to tell you how to find it because that's part of the fun. But one of the endings is that you eventually do find the warp core, but are attacked by old man Mark, who's just trying to stab you with his knife, and eventually does wind up seemingly fixing the paradox, but ultimately just makes it worse, and that's where it ends. But I should mention I've forgotten a couple of avenues at this point. There are a couple of avenues that lead to that one. That one I think is the main one. So yeah, I'm not gonna tell you how to get to it, but yeah, go find it yourself. It is a very fun little story, and of course there's also another route where it's all little crudely made dolls that are just kind of. It's just a really jarring sequence, but sometimes you get one of those sequences, and yeah, it is just it's just a really fun sequence, and I do kind of like it, but yeah, overall, I do hope you guys will just go out and go support Mark's new video thing that he made with YouTube Originals, because he's been doing these for a while now. He's gotten really good at them, and I kind of am proud of how far he's come as a director. And yeah, this is his most recent project as a director. He's been making these for a while now. This is his most recent one. I hope you also go and support it, and I do, and especially since I do like supporting some of my favorite creators, and Mark is definitely up there as one of my favorites, because for this reason, he makes his own stuff, he makes his own skits and stuff, and as of recent, he's been directing his own short films, which are kind of very comedic as per him, but I do kind of like the story. I do kind of like the storyline. I do kind of like how it's supposedly the finale of all the other shorts that he's made, and is supposed to finish off the A Date with Markiplier storyline, which has been going on for several different skits at this point. And In Space is just the most recent one of those, but in the With Markiplier series. Yeah, the series has been going on, but yeah, I do like the series. I do like what he's been making, and I do hope you guys will once again go and support In Space with Markiplier. I have linked part 1 down in the description. I will also link part 2 when that eventually gets made and that eventually gets released. So yeah, if you want to play those, I will link them both in the description. The first one I will be linking when this video goes up. The second one, whenever that one goes up, because I have no idea. I know when it goes up, but I'll just link those both of those in the description. But yeah, go check them out. If you're watching this in the future, go check both of those out. If not, if you're watching this immediately as this video comes out, go check out the first one. Second one will be added momentarily. So just keep an eye on those, and yeah, just future-proofing to make sure I don't have to remake this video. But in any case, yeah, just go check out In Space with Markiplier, and yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this. You should watch. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It does really help me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks that are my way of saying thanks. So be sure to check those out. Link is in the description. And of course, finally, if you want to see more content from me, then be sure to check out the videos linked in the end screen. The top video is the most recent one. It may or may not be this one. The bottom video is recommended to you based on what you've already seen. It may or may not be In Space with Markiplier. I have no idea. And that might be what the algorithm picks up, and that might be what the algorithm suggests for you. But yeah, if it does wind up being In Space with Markiplier, let me know in the comments. I'm interested to know how many people actually got In Space with Markiplier as their recommended video. But yeah, in any case, thank you guys so much for watching. That's the next time we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.